The November wind was biting cold, sweeping through the small town streets like a silent warning that winter had already begun. People rushed past, coats drawn tight, scarves wound high, eyes fixed ahead, each lost in their own world. But on the cold concrete steps outside Miller's pharmacy sat a young mother, her knees pulled close, a worn prescription paper trembling between her fingers. Her name was Emily Carter, and at that moment, she felt like the world had given up on her. Beside her, her little boy Noah, no older than 6, sat shivering in his thin jacket, his small hand clutching her sleeve. His cheeks were pale, and his lips had that faint bluish tint that made her heart ache with fear. Emily wasn't begging for money for herself, she was begging for her son's life. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, in the power of compassion, and in giving second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us spread stories that remind the world that even in dark times, good people still exist. Emily had been to 3 pharmacies that day, each time hoping that someone would help, that maybe this time the prescription would be cheaper. Noah's infection had worsened overnight. The doctor said he needed the antibiotics immediately. But after losing her job 2 months ago when the diner she worked at shut down, Emily's savings were gone. Rent was overdue. The landlord had given her one final notice, and she'd already sold her phone and her late mother's necklace just to buy food. Now she sat there, outside the pharmacy, with nothing left but a piece of paper that could save her son, but cost more than she could ever afford. She had tried explaining to the pharmacist, her voice breaking as she held out the prescription, but the woman behind the counter had only given her a sympathetic look before shaking her head and saying she couldn't help without payment. It wasn't cruelty, it was policy. So Emily stepped. Outside, her legs weak, her breath shallow, feeling the kind of helplessness that crushes the soul. She didn't even realize she was crying until Noah's small hand reached up to wipe her tears. "Mommy, it's okay," he whispered, trying to be brave, but his voice cracked halfway through. That made her cry harder. She pulled him into her arms, whispering prayers to a God she wasn't sure still listened. "Please," she said softly, staring at the sky. "Just one more miracle. Just this once." The street was busy. People came and went, some glancing at her, most pretending not to see. It wasn't that they were heartless. It was that they were used to walking past pain. In a world filled with stories of scams and deception, kindness had become something people second-guessed. And so Emily sat there, invisible in plain sight. Then a pair of polished shoes stopped near her. She looked up, startled, her eyes meeting those of a man in a navy suit. He looked to be in his mid-30s, confident but not arrogant, the kind of person who carried quiet authority. His name was David Miller, no relation to the pharmacy's owner, though he came there often for his company's prescriptions. He had been walking out when he saw her. There was something in the way she clutched the paper, the way the little boy leaned against her, that made him pause. He had passed dozens of people asking for help before, but this was different. David crouched down to her level. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, though he could already see the answer in her face. Emily hesitated, embarrassed, her pride battling with desperation. "I'm fine," she lied, but her voice wavered. David glanced at the paper in her trembling hand. It was a prescription. "Is this for your son?" he asked. Emily nodded slowly, unable to speak. In that moment, something inside him shifted. He had been raised by a single mother who had also struggled to afford his asthma medication when he was young. He remembered those nights vividly, the worry. In her eyes, the tears she tried to hide. And now, seeing that same look in Emily's eyes, he felt like life was showing him a reflection of the past. He didn't ask more questions. He simply said, "Wait here," and walked back inside. Emily blinked, confused. A few minutes later, he returned, holding a small white paper bag with the pharmacy's logo on it. He handed it to her with a faint smile. "It's all taken care of," he said quietly. Emily stared at him in disbelief. "No, I can't let you," she began, but her voice broke. David shook his head. "You're not letting me do anything. You're giving me a chance to help." Her hands trembled as she took the bag. The weight of it felt heavier than gold. Tears blurred her vision as she tried to thank him, but words failed. Instead, she just nodded, clutching Noah tightly as she wept. People around them had started to notice, some even stopping, their own expressions softening. In a world where everyone was too busy, kindness still had the power to make time stop. David didn't stay for gratitude. He just smiled, told her to take care, and walked away. But that single act of compassion would ripple through Emily's life in ways neither of them could have imagined. That night, Emily gave Noah his first dose of medicine. She watched as color slowly began to return to his cheeks, as the fever eased just a little. It wasn't instant, but it was hope, and that was something she hadn't felt in a long time. She tucked him into bed, sat by his side, and cried again, but this time they were tears of relief. Over the next few weeks, Noah began to recover. Emily found a part-time cleaning job at a local community center where one of the volunteers, who had seen her outside the pharmacy that day, recommended her. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became possible again. Every day, when she looked at her son smiling, she thought of that stranger in the navy suit. Months later, she walked into the pharmacy again, not as a woman in despair, but as someone ready to give back. She had saved a small amount from her paychecks, and though it wasn't much, she told the pharmacist she wanted to pay for someone else's prescription anonymously. The woman behind the counter smiled, recognizing her, and helped her arrange it. That day, a young man came in who couldn't afford his insulin. The pharmacist told him it was already paid for. He walked out crying, holding that same white paper bag that once saved Noah. Life has a way of bringing kindness full circle. What Emily didn't know was that David had been going through his own struggles when he met her. He was a corporate executive, yes, but one who had been questioning the purpose of his success. He had money, but he felt empty, until that day outside the pharmacy. The look on Emily's face when she realized her son would be okay reminded him of something he'd forgotten. That life's true worth isn't measured in dollars, but in compassion. He began quietly donating to local charities, paying off small medical bills for families in need, and even started a fund to help low-income parents afford prescriptions for their children. When asked why he cared so much, he simply said, "Because once, a mother reminded me what real courage looks like." A year later, fate brought them together again. Emily was working at a small cafe downtown when she recognized him at one of the tables. Her heart raced as she walked over, still remembering that cold November day. "You probably don't remember me," she said softly, smiling. David looked up, and recognition dawned in his eyes. "Of course I do," he said. "How's Noah?" "He's perfect," she replied, her eyes shining. "Because of you." David shook his head. "Because of you. You never gave up." The conversation was brief but filled with warmth. As he left, he placed a generous tip on the table, a note tucked beneath it that read, "Keep believing in kindness. The world needs more of it." Emily folded it carefully and kept it in her wallet for years, as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light can come from unexpected places. The next time she saw someone sitting outside that same pharmacy, clutching a piece of paper with tear-stained hands, she didn't walk past. She knelt beside them, offered what little she had, and said, "I know how it feels. You're not alone." That's how kindness spreads, not through grand gestures, but through quiet ripples of humanity. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can be reminded that even one act of compassion can change a life forever. Special request, comment below and tell us, have you ever experienced or witnessed a moment of pure kindness that restored your faith in humanity? Your story might inspire someone else today. And as the night settles over that quiet town, the lights of Miller's Pharmacy glow softly through the glass doors. People come and go, but somewhere out there, kindness continues its silent work. One act, one heart, one miracle at a time.